I notice a lot on YouTube that, this is part two, by the way. I notice that a lot of atheists, they get flagged. Onision, famously, who just describes himself as an atheist. He doesn't make any videos about atheism. He makes all these, like comedy videos and shit. He's pretty good. I've watched him a couple of times. I didn't know much about him until this whole thing came up, but I watched a little bit. He's pretty good. But he said he's an atheist. He's not really outspoken or anything. He doesn't agree with how Brett Keane handles things, or probably he wouldn't agree with how I handle things. But that's really all I got to talk about. Religion is one of those things you could talk about forever, I've quite found. I could probably come up with something else to talk about, but it'd be way, way sadder than the videos I make now, so I'm not going to torture you with that. But he just described himself as an atheist. And he got flagged, alright? Because people don't like that he's an atheist, Religious people always say all the time, don't attack us for our views, and we have the right to our own opinion, which, yeah, they do. But then these sick, fucking sadistic pricks turn around and do this to this dude, who's not making any videos about it. He's not fucking out there and in your face and shit, but they had to stand up, They found a way to fucking hurt this dude, even though he was no threat to them. He was no fucking threat to them. Same thing they do with gays. Gay people, I'm right here telling you, are 100% no fucking threat to you whatsoever. Alright? People always try to twist that shit around and make it into there's some sort of sexual threat. Well, unless a gay guy is raping you, and that doesn't mean he's raping you because he's gay, that may mean he's raping you because he's a fucking rapist. Just a thought. But they always twist the shit like atheists are a threat to Christianity, or it's a threat to America. And America's not even a fucking Christian country. It's a neutral country, alright? It takes no fucking stance whatsoever in any of it. The reason this bullshit theory became the Christian nation and all this shit is because Christians happen to, most of the time, control the fucking country. Which they shouldn't. Take a look at George Bush. If Christians truly were, if this truly was a Christian nation and they controlled it thoroughly, we would all be fucking dead. Alright? Just look at, take George Bush, fundamentalist Christian, look at the fucking damage that guy caused. Alright? Look at the fucking thousands of people he killed over some bullshit. Alright? And people always say all the time, well, they was a bunch of ragheads, so what the fuck does it matter? Alright, well, guess what? Those fucking ragheads, alright, that you so hate, you redneck religious cocksucker, also had guns, alright? They shot back at the white guys and killed some of them too. So your fucking paradox makes no sense, alright? They live in this fucking fantasy world, alright? I've heard Yoka on his video about how under Clinton, something like 140,000 or 17,000 or some shit like that. It was way... He quoted this absurd fucking number about how so many people died in military combat, Americans died in military combat under Clinton. Even though, under Clinton, there wasn't a fucking war going on. It's strange how people die in military action when there's absolutely no fucking war going on. You could say that the whole Kosovo thing was kind of a war, but the number he quoted was nowhere near any fucking close that you could have called it, And they said, under George Bush, who started 2 wars, well, kind of 1.5, he started the Iraq War based on a fucking lie. We have proved that. 100% proved that. Which is weird because I meet these rednecks, particularly amongst my family down here. And I don't like these fucking people. It's very clear that I don't like them. Not my immediate family, but like the people who live down here, like my grandmother's side of the family. They always say all the time. First of all, one of my uncles said that I tried to tell him that George Bush stole the election. which is fucking proven. Not like 100% proven. You could indict him for it, but it is kind of strange. All these ballots in Florida went missing, and also at the same time, a bunch of black guys got purged from the votes because they got purged from the voting roster after they had fucking voted. Right? They let them vote, but when they found out they weren't going to vote the way they wanted, they put them on this list. Now, if their name matched up with a name that was just kind of similar to a convicted felon, they kicked them off. Honest, hard-working fucking people who voted, who cast their votes, they had to go to these people and say, oh, your vote wasn't fucking counted because your name just happens to kind of sound like a criminal who was executed 3 fucking years ago. It's fucking ludicrous. It makes no sense. But not only that, if you take a look at Katherine Harris, it was quite clear by looking at Katherine Harris and her testimonies and the decisions she made that somebody was putting money in her fucking pocket to do these things. She came out there one time, I don't know if you know this story, but they asked to recount the ballots. She comes out on her fucking podium, all painted up like some sort of fucking high-priced hooker, just being on TV, and says, well, I need a good reason why they should let me have them recount the votes. And they were like, are you fucking kidding me? You know, we had to recount the votes to make sure the votes are accurate, you know. And then she says, well, I can't let you recount the votes. The only thing that allows me to let you recount the votes is if there's a hurricane. Or it was some fucking crazy shit like that. I may have that wrong, but basically the second time I went back, I believe she said the only thing that suspends the time limit for the time they had to count the votes is if there's a hurricane, a natural disaster of some sort. They had a time limit on, you know, they had to count all these fucking votes, and they wanted her to extend the time limit so they made sure they count all the votes. And she said, oh, I can't do that unless there's a hurricane. You know, I may be wrong a little bit on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what she said. Anyway, whenever I see shit like this go down, particularly with Christians, and today in my paper, there was a fucking story about how the Catholic priests had to pay millions and millions of dollars just buying off all these fucking accusers to the Catholic Church of the rape and molestation scandals. And I had somebody tell me once, oh, well, most of those are just kind of made up, you know, most of those are... this guy, I know, he's a Catholic, he tried to tell me that most of the time these accusations are a girl who was of age who slept with a priest before he became a priest, and then, you know, and then he became a priest. She said, oh, we had inappropriate sex, and then they kicked him out. No priests were fucking kicked out, alright? But, alright, the reason he believes this is because his fucking church is feeding it to him, alright? A lot of priests molested little boys, there was a documentary about this one guy priest who took a camera crew around all the churches he was removed from. Basically, they kept moving him to different churches because he kept raping little girls. Little girls happened to be this dude's preference. But he was very candid with them. They asked him, how many girls did you rape here? He said, about 9. And they're like, you're very comfortable telling us this. He's like, I have to get this out. I was basically begging to be fucking caught, and they wouldn't do anything about it. And he had to go to all his victims and say, I'm sorry. They were all upset and pissed off and shit like that. They couldn't, you know, get a lawsuit against the church because, of course, through statutory laws and shit, you know, it had run out and shit like that. A few of them tried to, and, you know, they basically couldn't afford to do it and shit like that. But this motherfucker ruined a bunch of people's lives, and he gets no punishment, you know. And I just heard that the Pope sent a fucking letter to a bunch of people in Ireland. Not even a letter, like a fucking note, like this big, saying, oh, basically, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, you know. And that's, wow, a note. I want to see some fucking paper stacked real high with a bunch of ones and zeros on it. But anyway, that's all I got. So enough of my rant and raving. So peace.